Lateral dynamic flexibility work will only take about 2 minutes after our ladder drills are concluded. From there, we'll move into our resisted lateral movement drills. The next category is resisted lateral movement. This is something that we feel really strongly about because we feel that most athletes don't have strong enough hip abductors. Here we're using a lateral resistor, working on push. The big concept we want people to understand with lateral movement is that we need to push ourselves in the direction that we want to go, not pull ourselves. Lateral resistors can be done forward or sideways. Forward here is going to work on the abductors more as a stabilizer, obviously, whereas sideways will work on that muscle more as a prime mover. We'll begin with a band at the ankles and gradually we'll progress to more difficult variations. The next step in our resisted lateral movement sequence increases the difficulty by moving the band up above the knee. Here we're using a doubled flex band, and Tricia is getting the same action that we saw previously with the yellow band, but now we're putting much more emphasis on the glute medius as we take the IT band out as a contributor. Again, we're going to move both right and left and both forward and back, and as we stated previously, forward and back we're getting more of a stabilizer effect, whereas on the side to side, we're getting much more of a prime mover effect for those abductor muscles. In either case, we're not only getting warm-up, but work for the muscles in the hip complex. Total body band takes the same flex band and now puts it over the feet and around the neck. Again, conceptually, we have not changed anything in any of these drills. If you're looking, you'd be seeing a 9-week progression here. What we're doing now is adding some stress to the actual spinal column here. We're loading the spine by putting the band up over the neck. We're getting the same action in terms of right to left or forward back, but now you'll see much more core stability, if we want to use the term, as the athlete tries to keep the back flat with the band up around the neck. Here we have resisted adduction. This is something we would use more in a rehabilitative situation, but we wanted to show it on this video as we were working on lateral movement concepts. Here, the band is attached to the person who is trailing, and we're pulling through, trying to get work for the adductor musculature. Again, these resisted lateral movement drills that we're showing you here will take about 5 minutes of our 1-hour lateral movement day. In keeping with our concept now of showing you a real-time workout, what we're actually doing over the course of approximately an hour, we've shown you the agility ladder warm-up. Now we've shown you our lateral dynamic, our stationary movements, our moving dynamic movements. We've shown you the resisted movements that we're going to do to really get our hip, ad, and abductors and get things warmed up. The next sequence that we're going to show you is our plyometric progression, and this is the plyometric progression strictly for a lateral movement day. In keeping with the concept here of lateral movement, we're obviously using lateral plyometrics. We're going to show you drills, basic day 1 and day 2 drills. This is what we would call a hide and stick. The emphasis in our first phase is stability before mobility. Here you're going to see lateral box jump. This is a really difficult concept for athletes to grasp, and we even kept some of the not so good reps in here so you could see that somebody like Tricia, who's a 2-time Olympian, is going to struggle with single leg jump, single leg landing. When we begin teaching single leg jumping up this way, we want to jump up to a very, very small obstacle. Here we've got a 6-inch step. And we want to make sure the emphasis is on jumping medially and jumping laterally with each leg. It's very, very different for the athlete to jump medially than it is for the athlete to jump laterally. As with all of our plyometric drills, we're emphasizing soft, quiet landings where we're trying to get great stability. You won't get great stability all the time in the beginning, but we want to encourage that all of the time. As you follow the progression concept, we now go to a hide with no stick. Here now we've taken the same drill you saw previously and we've taken the stability out and gone to mobility. Here, what we've done is added gravity to the picture. We've taken, again, the same drill, just a lateral hop, and we've added the difficulty of going over a mini hurdle as opposed to landing on the 6-inch box. And again, you'll see that it is much more difficult for Tricia to stick her landings as she moves up and then down. There is that brief acceleration due to gravity that comes from going up and then coming down. The emphasis is again to stick as quiet and soft as possible. In keeping with the same concept now, we're going from right to left and from left to right. We've got a zigzag bound and stick, which keeps on the same theme as our Haydn without a stick. When we add a little bit of a linear component to this, we go back to a stable landing. Again, Walter here is trying to get a good stick, 1/1000 laterally and a little bit linear, 1/1000 laterally and a little bit linear. In the next drill, all we've done here is added additional hurdles for Tricia. So we're going to get 3 jumps moving to the right, followed by 3 jumps back to the left, all on the same leg. Again, the emphasis here when we're doing our single leg jumping and landing is that we are jumping laterally, as you see here, and then medially as you return. You have to understand that these are very, very different jumps and landings, even though they are on the same leg. Keep in mind that each drill is done once a week for 3 weeks. Here we go to our zigzag bound without a stick. Boom, rapid response right back to the other side, trying to work on fast change of direction. Again, with Tricia, all we've done now is kept the same number of obstacles, and we're going 3 jumps medially, 3 jumps laterally. We're going to do that 3 times with each leg. What we want you to understand here, even though we're showing you a real-time workout, what you're seeing are 4 plyometric phases where we're moving through 3-week blocks, where we're going now multiple single leg, actual true plyometrics, limited time on the ground, trying to rapidly get over these hurdles laterally and stick our last landing. Now we feel pretty safe that we can do a lot of much more aggressive jumping. Here we're working on a lateral bound, very, very aggressive push off on the right, trying to get both height and distance as the athlete moves across. The next drill that you'll see is what we call a crossover bound, where the emphasis is on the work being done by the crossing leg. The crossing leg is pushing aggressively into abduction, pushing the athlete down the field. Then the third one is a cross behind. Now the emphasis is much more on the adductor musculature because we are pushing in with the adductors as we get the crossover. So the push-off is very, very different here in the cross behind. Again, what you're seeing here is 4 to 5 phases of plyos. What we need you to understand is that you're really seeing a sequence that takes probably less than 5 minutes to do, where we're doing 1 jumping exercise for probably 3 to 5 sets of 5 jumps per leg. It really only amounts to about 25 foot contacts per session.
The next segment that we're going to show you in this real-time idea that we're using is how to teach somebody how to change direction, how to teach them pure lateral speed, and then how to transition those two together. We believe that there's a basic foot sequence, what we're going to call 1-2 stick or 1-2 cut, that becomes the basic evasive maneuver for most offensive people in most sports. We think and really believe that you can teach athletes how to change direction better. You can teach them that through more strength. You can teach them that through better stability. And you can actually teach them the footwork pattern that they need to be able to change direction. What we'll do is teach that pattern, speed that pattern up. Then we'll teach them pure lateral speed, literally the ability to run sideways. Then we'll combine those 2 skills together. Finally, in the last segment, what we'll show you is our ideas about lateral conditioning, a little bit about slide board, and a little bit about change of direction running.
For the first drill that you're going to see, what we call 1-2 stick, again, Walter is just showing you the space that we use, which is about 1 hand width between the hoops. We would much rather use flat rings than any type of hurdle or any device where we're going to encourage the athlete to step up. And it's literally 1-2 stick, 1-2 stick, 1-2 stick. We want to really work on stability. We want to work on the athlete understanding the concept of footwork to change direction. All we're doing here is, again, showing you from the width of a hand to a length of a hand. We're going to make it more difficult by getting the rings further apart, make the athlete push harder. The idea is I need to push with my right to get to my left, push with my left to get to my right, and then I need to get a stable landing. And again, in the last sequence, we go about the full width of a foot. Now the athlete is really going to have to push. And again, you're looking, this may take us 3 weeks to get through this. These drills we will do twice a week on our lateral days. And we will move the hoops out further every week. And again, 1, 2, stick, 1, 2, stick, 1, 2, stick. The next sequence that you'll see is what we call 1, 2, cut. All we've done here is taken that stable landing out. Now we're getting change of direction. Now you're going to begin to see what we mean by that basic evasive maneuver. When you look at this, you can envision any number of athletes trying to evade a tackler or a defender, trying to get a crossover dribble in. What we want the athlete to understand here is that it's quick footwork, boom. Stutter step, change direction. Stutter step, change direction. We want them to understand what the foot placement is for this drill. Very, very important that they get this concept before we move them on to the next. The next sequence that you'll see here is what we call assisted 1, 2 cut. And the key that you need to understand here is that this is not really a resisted drill. We're not worried about the resistance. What we're worried about is the assistance. The athlete being pulled back towards the resistor so that they have to use much more energy to break. Most people look at this and think the importance is to get the push off. We want you to realize that the importance is as you get pulled back towards the resistor and have to stabilize and create that change of direction. Here we begin to mix linear movement and lateral movement, and we go to 45-degree 1, 2 stick. Simply using the hoops to mark our foot pattern, 1, 2 stick, 1, 2 stick, 1, 2 stick as we move forward. We can do this drill additionally backwards. Again, working on the same pattern, working on stability. We would then progress to 45-degree 1, 2 cut. And again, athletes really begin to understand what you've been trying to teach as you move through this sequence. What we want our athletes to understand is that our emphasis is on teaching them to move better, not timing them as they try to move. I think a lot of the emphasis with people is on timing, not teaching. The next series of drills is what we would call lateral hoop run. This is our really pure lateral speed. What we're doing here is just gradually increasing the number of hoops from 3 to 4, and it's a simple 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, stick. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, stick. We want to really emphasize that the athlete runs laterally. Now here in lateral run and return, we're incorporating 2 of the drills. We're working on our lateral run, boom, our stick, and our direction change. It's very, very important in these drills that athletes understand where they want to change direction from. We need to have the weight on the inside ball of the foot when we change direction, because in that situation, you're going to get maximum force production back in the direction that you want to go. You're going to minimize the potential for that athlete to be injured by having that weight inside. You're never going to see an athlete roll their ankle if they get their foot in the right position. As with lateral hoop run, we can increase the difficulty simply by adding hoops. We get a very, very simple action. We want 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, change, right back to a stable landing. We'll spend approximately 10 minutes on our lateral movement drills, and at this time we should have elapsed somewhere around 30 minutes of total time. The emphasis is not on the number of reps. Again, we're looking in 1, 2 stick type of drills. We might be doing 3 to 6 reps to each side. When we're talking about lateral hoop run or lateral hoop run and return, we might again be talking about 3 reps on each side. The emphasis with us is on quality repetitions, not on the quantity of repetitions that the athlete is doing. We want the athlete to understand the concept that they need to push themselves in the direction that they want to move. The last sequence that we want you to see here is lateral conditioning, because again, we think it's important when we talk about lateral days to keep the theme running through the entire day. So we condition every athlete that we deal with on the slide board on a lateral movement day. I think some people look at this device and think, hey, that's a great hockey device, but our feeling is that if you take out swimmers and rowers, you've eliminated just about everybody else does some type of lateral movement in this sport. And again, here what you're seeing is Tricia. Now we've got a little bit of resisted lateral movement. This will give us a greater load on the abductors, but less load on the adductors. So this is great if you have an athlete that's had a medial collateral injury, or if you have an athlete that has had some type of groin problem, to start to bring them back in terms of lateral movement. Generally speaking, our lateral conditioning will take approximately 15 minutes, and this will be the end of the workout prior to us going into the weight room.
On lateral days, our conditioning will be slide board. But on linear days, we'll start to incorporate some lateral movement as well, where instead of doing tempo running or just straight ahead running, we turn it into some shuttle work, where we do get some change direction, whether short or longer distance in terms of 25, 50, or even some real short 5, 10, 15-yard shuttles. We would incorporate some change direction into our linear days as well. We've had a lot of fun so far, and we hope you're able to take not only the drills, but the basic premise and establish a thought process for yourself. These are things we've tried with thousands of athletes and thousands of workouts. We've made some corrections, we've made some adjustments. Here's our final piece.
As we said, you're seeing a real-time workout. You're seeing about 45 minutes of video, which really encompasses a 45-minute workout. You're seeing a ladder warm-up. You're seeing our lateral dynamics. You're seeing our movement progressions in terms of teaching somebody lateral movement. And the important thing we want you to understand is that you're seeing progressions. You're seeing somebody move from phase 1 to phase 2 to phase 3 to phase 4. And we want you to really understand you need to work through the progressions exactly the way they're outlined for you. If you do that, you're going to find that you'll get your athletes to move better and to be healthy.